Donald Trump says he will never withdraw from the race, and amid GOP demands that he quit, told the Washington Post, quote, "They're not going to make me quit, and they can't make me quit." He told the Wall Street Journal there's, quote, "zero chance I'll quit, and the support I'm getting is unbelievable." House Speaker Paul Ryan disinvited Trump to Wisconsin's Fall Fest today after hearing the 11-year-old tape of Trump's profanity-laced boasting that his fame allowed him to grope women without consent or warning. Running mate Mike Pence, who said he and his wife found Trump's remarks horrifying, was scheduled at the last minute to go in Trump's place today, but he canceled this morning too. Ryan said he was, quote, "sickened by Trump's vulgar and demeaning description of Trump's sexual conquests." Trump aides believe the Clinton campaign found and released the tape as part of their opposition research.
When you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the you know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait.
Trump aides believe the Clinton campaign has more bombs to drop. The only Republican woman in this year's GOP presidential primaries, Carly Fiorina, issued a statement saying, quote, "Donald Trump does not represent me or my party." The Republican National Committee chairman, Reince Priebus, said, quote, "No woman should ever be described in these terms or talked about in this manner, ever." Even in Florida, struggling in the aftermath of Hurricane Matthew, the Republican governor had to deal with Trump's lewd statements.
I don't know why anybody would say things like that. I think it's absolutely wrong.
U.S. Senator John Thune, a member of the Republican leadership on Capitol Hill, tweeted, quote, "Donald Trump should withdraw and Mike Pence should be our nominee effective immediately." Conservative Republican Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska, a former Christian college president, made his pitch for Pence to take over, quote, "Character matters. At real Donald Trump is obviously not going to win, but he can still make an honorable move. Step aside and let Mike Pence try." But nationwide, ballots with Trump's name have already been printed, and forcing him out would be virtually impossible. Pence has made no public comments about replacing Trump, and Trump insiders say Pence remains on the ticket. He issued a statement saying, "I do not condone his remarks and cannot defend them. I'm grateful that he's expressed remorse and apologized to the American people." With a critically important town hall-style debate tomorrow in St. Louis, Trump tried to put out the firestorm first with a brief statement apologizing if anyone was offended, then added a video released overnight as outrage spread.
Anyone who knows me knows these words don't reflect who I am. I said it, I was wrong, and I apologize. I've said some foolish things, but there's a big difference between the words and actions of other people. Bill Clinton has actually abused women, and Hillary has bullied, attacked, shamed, and intimidated his victims.
Former rivals chimed in aggressively. Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who's endorsed Trump, tweeted, quote, "Donald's comments were vulgar, egregious, and impossible to justify. No one should ever talk about any woman in those terms, even in private." And Trump's Democratic rivals are also pouncing.
Any Republican who has said they are for Donald Trump, they need to be asked by the press and others and by constituents right now, do you still think he's qualified to be President of the United States? Do you still think he is?
The Republican National Committee today halted some of its direct mail messaging and some other projects about messaging in anticipation of Trump coming up with new rhetoric and a new message because of this controversy. It'll be some time before it's actually done. This is not meant to be a rebuke, sources say. It's just that they recognize that there is going to need to be a new kind of message. Shannon?
All right, Carl Cameron live in New York. We'll talk about it with the panel coming up. Thanks, Carl. Now to Hillary Clinton's campaign, which is active on 3 major fronts tonight. 1, debate preparation. 2, responding to that unexpected gift for her campaign, the Trump audio. And 3, the fallout from newly released emails showing Clinton in what could be described as a disingenuous light. Fox News correspondent Jennifer Griffin has the story from here in St. Louis tonight.
The Clinton campaign is not saying whether or not the new emails released by WikiLeaks are authentic. They are quoting members of the intelligence community who say that it is possible that whoever hacked into the emails could have altered some of them to make them more damaging, calling it a sophisticated Russian disinformation campaign. It should concern every American that Russia is willing to engage in such hostile acts in order to help Donald Trump become president of the United States. The emails released late yesterday include thousands thousands of campaign emails apparently sent by Chairman John Podesta that reveal the inner workings of the Clinton campaign and contain potentially damaging excerpts from Clinton's Wall Street speeches. One excerpt from a speech given to Goldman Sachs in 2014 has the header, "Clinton admits she is out of touch." Quote, "Obviously, I'm kind of far removed because the life I've lived and the economic, fortunes that my husband and I now enjoy, but I haven't forgotten it." The speech excerpts also delve into her support for a single-payer health care system like the one in Canada. She also expressed praise for trade deals and open borders. Clinton spokesman Glenn Kaplan said in a statement, quote, "Earlier today, the U.S. government removed any reasonable doubt that the Kremlin has weaponized WikiLeaks to meddle in our election and benefit Donald Trump's candidacy." Donald Trump tried to use the leaked emails to divert attention from his hot mic moment. Quote, "Hillary Clinton's secret Wall Street speeches prove what we have known all along, that Clinton is a self-serving Washington insider who has continued to deceive the American people for 30 years. Clinton spokesman Brian Fallon criticized the media for playing into the hands of the Russians by publishing the mails, quote, "striking how quickly concern about Russia's masterminding of illegal hacks gave way to digging through fruits of hack, just like Russia wanted," he wrote on Twitter. Another discovery, comments she made about the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. "My dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders, sometime in the future with energy that is as green and sustainable as we can get it, powering growth and opportunity for every person in the hemisphere," Clinton told a Brazilian bank in 2013. She added, "We have to resist protectionism, other kinds of barriers to market access." RNC Chairman Reince Priebus issued a statement, quote, "The truth that has been exposed here is that the persona Hillary Clinton has adopted for her campaign is a complete and utter fraud. How can Bernie Sanders and many like-minded Democrats continue to support her candidacy in light of these revelations?" There appears to be concern in the emails by the Clinton campaign, even before they got off the ground, about the relationship between Goldman Sachs and the Clinton Foundation. In fact, in May 2014, soon-to-be Clinton campaign manager Robbie Mook suggested that it was troubling that Goldman Sachs had been chosen to host an event for the Clinton Foundation. Shannon?
All right, Jennifer Griffin live following the Clinton campaign. Thank you. Let's get some analysis now on the Trump and Clinton stories with syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. He is live with us in Washington tonight. Good evening, Charles.
Good evening. I'm in my Saturday gear here. It's the Johnny Cash.
We like it. We like it. The man in black. It's working for you. And now we need to know what you think about these two scandals. Let's start with Trump, the audio. Does he overcome it? What does he need to say tomorrow night? Does he address it head on?
Look, I think it's extremely hard to overcome for this reason. If you say something in real time, you're saying something to the audience, you say it wrong, or you create a gaffe, which is in Washington speaking the truth accidentally, you can apologize and try to walk that back. If you are caught on tape saying something privately, that's of a different, how do you apologize for something that was not intended for audiences outside? When he said in his apology, anyone who knows me knows that this tape does not reflect who I am, knows that the problem is that it is precisely the opposite. Any private recording is damaging precisely because it reflects who you are. To take almost a trivial example, when Mitt Romney talked about the 47%, he thought he was not speaking to a wider audience. He was betraying what he really thought, and that's what kills you.
Well, Charles, here we're talking about something that's more than a decade old. It was long before Trump was actually running for anything, much less the presidency. He says that he's been changed by traveling this country, by meeting people, hearing from them. He says he's a changed person since then. Do you think voters will give him the benefit of the doubt?
I don't think there's 1 in 1,000 who believes that. The ones who think that they want him to be the president are ones who believed it before and don't really care about this. There is nobody who's going to think that he's a changed man. What's the evidence he's a changed man? In his life, in the way he talks, in the way, in the interim, he has spoken about other women? No, that's not. If somebody ignores this or overlooks this or could say, look,
he may not be the guy I want to emulate or want my family to emulate or my kids, but nonetheless, Hillary would run an administration so disastrous that would have such effects in the future that I'll support him anyway. Yes, that's logical. But anybody who thinks that he's matured since he was, what, 59? I think not.
All right, we're going to talk about it with the panel, including a very prominent Trump supporter coming up and get their take on it. But I also want to talk to you about the Hillary Clinton, these emails. Yes. John Podesta has suggested, I don't know which ones are fake, which ones are real. If they are, they're excerpts from speeches where she talks about having a public position versus a private position. She talks about open borders and open trade. What do you make of that? Will that have any impact on her campaign?
Look, in a normal year and with normal timing, this would be utterly devastating. If it had not come out just an hour or so after the Trump revelation, it is all we would be talking about. We would be mining these emails for more and more damaging material. Damaging in two ways. One is simply on the policy front. Her talking about open borders. That is a 30-second ad that would run in a continuous loop in some parts of the country and would be devastating. But the other is as to personality and character. She's known, her flaw is you can't trust her, you see it in the numbers. That's her history going back 30 years, and she is admitting here. The public and the private are different, and you can just see it right out there, undeniable.
Yeah, we're going to dig into those as well, more content from those speeches and talk about the different positions that appear to be outlined in these leaked emails. Charles, thank you very much. Good to see you down there in D.C.
My pleasure.
All right, Chris Wallace, by the way, is going to sit down with Clinton's campaign chair for a Fox News Sunday exclusive. You don't want to miss this. He is going to ask John Podesta about the latest WikiLeaks documents, the Trump audio clips, and get a preview of the second presidential debate tomorrow. That is also going to be joined by, from the Republican side, Kellyanne Conway. She's going to be there from the Trump campaign. She's going to be on the show with Chris as well. You don't want to miss those two big interviews on Fox News Sunday. Well, Hurricane Matthew is still pounding the coasts of South Carolina and Georgia tonight, but it has weakened to a Category 1 storm, and it appears that most of the Atlantic coast has escaped the catastrophic damage that was predicted. At least 9 deaths have been reported in the U.S. Haiti fared far worse, with at least 470 now reported dead. 2 American naval ships, along with more than 500 Marines, are headed there. They're going to assist in humanitarian relief. We have Fox team coverage of the storm's effects here in the U.S. Correspondent Jonathan Seri is in South Carolina, not far from where the streets of historic Charleston are flooded tonight. Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth is at the Fox Weather Center in New York. He's going to tell us where Matthew is, where the storm is going. We begin with Jonathan Seri in Folly Beach, South Carolina. Good evening, Jonathan.
Good evening, Shannon. Things here are relatively calm right now, a far cry from the pounding waves and howling wind that we were witnessing for most of last night. And yet there are still reminders of the violent storm that tore through here. Much of this island community remains without power. After pounding the South Carolina coast all night with heavy winds, Hurricane Matthew made landfall this morning to the northeast of Charleston, sparing the historic city from its most intense winds, but driving a 9.29-foot storm surge into Charleston Harbor, the highest level since Hurricane Hugo back in 1989. As conditions improved, Governor Nikki Haley urged evacuees to wait 2 days before returning home so that first responders can inspect buildings and remove fallen trees and power lines from roads.
The anxiousness is when the storm is coming. When the storm hits, you're praying, and then now the frustration sets in. And what I am going to ask for you is patience. Most injuries, most fatalities occur after a storm because people attempt to move in too soon.
Before making landfall in South Carolina, Matthew skirted the Florida coast. Although the eye stayed offshore, strong winds knocked out power to more than 1 million customers.
As of midnight last night, we had 6,000 people still in our shelters. We have 88 shelter openings, and hopefully as people get their power back, we'll be able to get people back in their homes quickly and get people back to their homes, back to their jobs, back to school.
As it left Florida, Matthew battered the Georgia coast with powerful storm surge and winds. Although the storm system has weakened considerably, it has already claimed nearly a dozen lives and is expected to dump large amounts of rain as it moves up the coast toward North Carolina. Governor Pat McCrory warns the potential flooding could rival that produced by Hurricane Floyd in 1999.
Stay off the roads. stay in your house, watch the football games on TV, bunker up, because at this point in time, there are deadly conditions from Raleigh east at this point in time.
Many coastal communities are restricting access. Others are imposing overnight curfews. Meanwhile, South Carolina's governor is warning residents of a potential scam. Apparently, hackers are sending out emails to residents purporting to offer information on power outages. But when you click on the link, the hackers gain access to your computer. The governor saying if you get an email of this nature from someone you don't recognize, don't click the link, delete it. Shannon?
Just despicable. All right, Jonathan, thank you very much. Stay safe. The Hurricane Matthew's northward march spared most of Florida's east coast. It may not be done yet. Are the conditions right for the hurricane to head out to sea and reorganize? Let's find out what's next for Matthew. Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth is at the Fox Weather Center in New York with more. Good evening, Rick.
Hey, Shannon. All right, so it is not going to reorganize. It's going to move offshore, but we're not done with it by any means. And yeah, Florida didn't see the center come on shore, but the beaches were very damaged. And what we're seeing now across the Carolinas is catastrophic for some. And we have a really long night ahead of us. Winds still strong, gusting to 71 in Myrtle Beach just about a half an hour ago. So you get the idea. Still very strong now, offshore winds. But the storm is moving off towards the northeast. And this rain that you see primarily now in towards North Carolina, heading up towards Virginia, is extreme. We have tornado conditions or tornado warnings, especially across the eastern areas of North Carolina. But parts of Interstate 95 are closed down because of the flooding. We have reports of numerous bridges and roads that have been cut off, and people cannot get through at all. And you see the rainfall very heavy across a really wide swath. This red here, that is flash flooding that is going on right now. Probably half of the state of North Carolina has flash flooding that is occurring right now, and we're going to see this spread, I think, likely in towards parts of Virginia. The reason for that, as you can see, the rain was heavy. We saw about a foot of rain in Savannah, but you go here already across South Carolina and North Carolina, we're getting more moisture wrung out of this storm, and that's what's going to happen over the next couple of hours. So overnight tonight, still across areas of North Carolina and Virginia. By noon tomorrow, it's gone, moves offshore. We're not going to be looking at any kind of reorganization from this. That's the good news. The bad news is before that happens, take a look at the Shannon right here. We have some spots that are going to see probably a foot to a foot and a half of additional rain across North Carolina. Some of these spots just 2 weeks ago saw record-breaking flooding, and now we're going to see a foot and a half of rain on top of that. We have all of the rivers already full. We've already seen a lot of damage to the infrastructure. This coming on top of it, potentially catastrophic situation here across interior sections of North Carolina.
All right, Rick, we know you are tracking it around the clock. Thank you so much for the updates.
You bet.
When we come back, the damage the latest Trump controversy may do to other Republicans on the ballot. But as we head to break, a little bit of debate history from Washington University.
Washington University has hosted more debates than any other institution in U.S. history. The university archive here at the Olin Library takes us through those big nights right here on campus. The university has hosted 3 presidential debates, one in 1992, in 2000 with George W. Bush and Al Gore, and in 2004 with President George W. Bush and then Senator John Kerry. But it was the 2008 vice presidential debate when 70 million people, a record crowd, tuned in to see Alaska Governor Sarah Palin square off against then Senator Joe Biden. It began with one of the most memorable moments in debate history, which even was parodied on Saturday Night Live.
Nice to meet you. Hey, can I call you Joe? Okay, good. Thanks.
Welcome back to St. Louis, site of tomorrow night's presidential debate. As Donald Trump tries to do damage control over his comments about women, GOP leaders are wondering how the issue will affect other Republicans in down-ballot races. Correspondent Peter Doocy is in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, where Trump was supposed to appear today with House Speaker Paul Ryan.
Republicans in tight races are on the run from Trump, calculating that they'll stand a better chance in November if they aren't aligned with their own party's nominee. In Illinois, Senator Mark Kirk says that, quote, DJT is a malignant clown. unprepared and unfit to be president of the United States. In Wisconsin, Senator Ron Johnson says that, quote, Donald Trump's recent comments are completely indefensible, and I refuse to even attempt to try and do so. And in New Hampshire, Senator Kelly Ayotte says that, quote, I will not be voting for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, and instead will be writing in Governor Pence for president on Election Day. On Capitol Hill, Republican strategists are reportedly now nervous about down-ballot races.
Things are looking worse right now for Republicans to hold the Senate. Just a couple of days ago, it was looking very positive. And when you have a big curveball like this arrive, nobody can quite read the way it's going to go.
Other experts say this is a two-way street, and the down-ballot candidates can damage Trump the same way he can damage them.
This could be the thing that pushes people over the edge, especially if you have a lot of high-level Republicans signaling enough is enough.
But what do people think outside the Beltway? This afternoon at the Wisconsin event Trump was uninvited from and Pence backed out of, women in the crowd told us they do not think it's helpful for Republican lawmakers to back away from Donald Trump.
They're just trying to gain from it. I feel they're just, we should be all together. We're all for the same thing, stopping ISIS, closing our borders, getting rid of our debt.
Well, I can understand what they're doing because it is, was pretty awful. But that was 11 years ago, and I think they should go behind Trump and stand behind him.
It's bad for the party. It doesn't show us as a united Republican Party, and they should really be standing behind Trump right now.
Here at Speaker of the House Paul Ryan's Fall Fest in Wisconsin, Ryan, the Governor Scott Walker, and Senator Ron Johnson were all randomly interrupted by Trump supporters at different times, screaming Trump's name, saying, "We want Trump." Things did stay mostly civil, but that goes to show that parts of the party here are divided again. Shannon.
Yeah, he says he's not going anywhere, so they may get their wish, it sounds like. Peter Doocy on the road. Thank you. Donald Trump had said earlier he was not planning to bring Bill Clinton's infidelities into the debate conversation. Now, that will very likely change. Trump is already hinting at drawing comparisons between his words and the Clintons' actions. Correspondent Rich Edson takes a look.
As Donald Trump notes, certainly has been an interesting 24 hours. It has. And the next 48 could be even more interesting. Tomorrow evening, Trump and Hillary Clinton meet for their second debate. In addressing his offensive 2005 comments, Trump turns to former President Bill Clinton's extramarital affairs and claims he has abused women, and Hillary Clinton has attacked those victims. In closing, Trump threatens to raise the issue.
We will discuss this more in the coming days. See you at the debate on Sunday.
Tomorrow's debate features a town hall format. The candidates will field questions from moderators and undecided voters. The senior debate commission official says Clinton will answer the first question.
What we were expecting for this debate was to see whether Trump could do better. He had lost the first debate. Now what we're going to see is whether Trump can do the biggest damage control effort he's ever had to make, and perhaps any other politician has had to make.
In the less than 2 weeks since their first debate, American voters have also seen an overnight Trump Twitter session attacking the former Miss Universe, a Trump cameo in a 2000 Playboy video, and details of his 1995 tax returns. Audio of Clinton's discussion with donors explaining Bernie Sanders' popularity. She used the example of a barista or a young adult living in their parents' basement. Bill Clinton calling Obamacare the craziest thing in the world, and new WikiLeaks emails showing favorable comments about trade and banks. While Trump's 2005 comments are unavoidable, the candidates have other issues to discuss.
The moderates can't get away from it. They're going to have to address this one head on. There's been a lot going on. I mean, there's things going on in Europe. Syria continues to evolve. And I think they're going to want to dig in as fast as they can on the substantive issues.
Estimates show more than 80 million watched the first debate, though in 2012 ratings for each debate were less than the previous performance. So perhaps a trend now that Donald Trump might be able to reverse tomorrow. Shannon, back to you.
We will see. Rich Edson live for us in Washington. Thank you, Rich. There were several attacks today aimed at American service members overseas in eastern Afghanistan. 2 were injured, 1 critically when their vehicle hit a roadside bomb. Outside Jalalabad, 2 soldiers were injured in a suicide bomb attack. And in Kuwait, 5 soldiers escaped injury in another suicide bombing. Russia has vetoed a UN Security Council resolution demanding an end to its airstrikes on the besieged Syrian city of Aleppo. The UN's relief agency says continued fighting over Aleppo is having dire humanitarian and psychological impacts on both sides of the divided Syrian city. Russian and Syrian bombing campaigns continue against rebel-held areas. An estimated 275,000 people are living in opposition-controlled parts of the city, and no international aid is getting through. A University of California, Davis researcher whose goal was to feed the world and save the planet will never get that chance. Sharon Gray was killed this week in Ethiopia, where she was planning to start a new research project. Fox News reporter Paul Tilsley reports from Johannesburg on a country tearing itself apart.
We need justice, we need freedom, chant anti-government protesters across Ethiopia. And this week, American agricultural expert Sharon Gray was killed when protesters threw stones at her car. At least 52 died a week ago when police opened fire at a protest, leading to a deadly stampede. The fight against the government has even spread overseas. At the Olympics in Rio, Ethiopian silver medal winner Fayisa Lelesa raised his arms in a protest salute. Back home, until recently, Ethiopia had been regarded as an island of stability, surrounded by unstable Somalia, Sudan and South Sudan. The US sees Ethiopia as a key ally in the region and annually hands out just under $1 billion in aid. And the capital, Addis Ababa, is the center of African power, with President Obama drawn to address the continent's leaders at the headquarters of the African Union. In the streets nearby, the majority Oromo and Amhara ethnic groups believe their freedom and rights are being squeezed by the minority Tigray, who represent only 6% of the population and yet are the sole party in power. It's a potentially explosive situation, says analyst Solomon Mulugeta.
The protests can only grow because the problem is very pervasive, and it's going to continue because it has not been addressed fundamentally.
One human rights agency says more than 700 protesters have been killed in the last year alone. And while in California today, relatives and friends of Sharon Gray mourn the death of this young woman who had gone to Addis Ababa to help the country, Ethiopia's ambassador here reached for a comment, told us that he is, I quote, a bit busy to talk to us. Shannon.
Paul, thank you very much. German police are hunting for a man they believe has ties to Islamic extremist groups after the discovery of explosives in his apartment. 3 people who were described as having contacts with the suspect are being detained. Police believe the man was planning a bombing attack, but they are not saying where or when. Up next, the panel with plenty to discuss about the scandal fest of a presidential race. But first, earlier today, I got to check out some of the more unique visitors on campus.
Along with all the other dignitaries and special guests here at Washington University for the debate, we've got the Clydesdales. Check it out. Part of St. Louis history and part of political interactions over the years. Tell us a little bit about that, Kat.
That's right. We've got all of 8 Clydesdales here, and the Clydesdales were used in 1933 to celebrate the repeal of Prohibition. They delivered one of the first cases of Budweiser to the White House.
Yeah, and there might be some of that available here if you visit this tent. And by the way, there's another special guest, too. You're going to meet Clyde, who is the Dalmatian, the mascot of this whole investigation, and he is adorable. He's ready. You ready? All right. More special report right after this.
I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and her. She was married.
It's huge news, Sarah.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the I've never said I'm a perfect person, nor pretended to be someone that I'm not. I've said and done things I regret, and the words released today on this more than a decade-old video are one of them. Anyone who knows me knows these words don't reflect who I am. I said it, I was wrong, and I apologize.
Let's bring in our panel to talk about the developments in the last 24 hours. Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard. Dr. Gina Loudon, host of America Trends with Dr. Gina. Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics co-founder and publisher. And Rick Rennell, former U.S. spokesman to the United Nations. Welcome all. It's been an eventful weekend, I think it's fair to say. Steve, does he recover from the comments? Are they fatal to his candidacy? He's apologized. He says he's a different person, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, nobody makes predictions in this race with any degree of conviction or confidence. But yeah, if you ask me today, I think these are fatal to his candidacy. And I think the real challenge for the Republican Party is if Donald Trump, at this point he was losing anyway by 4 points, 6 points, depending on the poll you believe, national polls. He was slipping in battleground states. He now, I think, is likely to lose evangelical voters, movement conservatives, women who might have been willing to vote for him just as the alternative to Hillary Clinton. The problem is, if Republicans try to replace Trump, then they risk losing all of the Trump supporters, alienating that group. And I think it just makes it a really difficult position for the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, he got millions, record votes in the primaries. Dr. Gino, I want to read what his wife had to say. Melania says, the words my husband used are unacceptable and offensive to me. This does not represent the man that I know. He has the heart and mind of a leader. I hope people will accept his apology as I have and focus on the important issues facing our nation and the world. How important is it when the spouse comes out to do this kind of additional apology or, trying to smooth out the rough edges of her spouse?
Yeah, I think very important. And, my background's in psychology, and I think that her saying this sort of gives other women in the country permission to consider forgiveness on this as well. And I think that there's a mental line that people start to draw about both of these candidates. It really brings to light, Shannon, I think something that's really important, and that is looking at things they've said in the past and have they truly changed? Because some are saying that Donald Trump has gone through quite a spiritual transformation during this campaign time. Hillary's the one who, that voters are saying, hey, she said she didn't know what classified meant and we're going to trust her to be president. She says she's learned now. So in the mind of voters, they're going to be thinking, who do I believe has really changed and really grown throughout this process? And that's the way they'll vote.
Tom, how damaging is it to now we see this growing list of senators, of congressmen, of other prominent GOP folks like former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, all saying that they either are stepping back from him, some saying they're unendorsing, others saying it's time for him to get off the ticket, which logistically seems probably impossible at this point. He says, all caps tweets, not going anywhere. I'm not a quitter. I'm staying in this for the people who believe in me.
Right. I mean, it's amazing how fast the story's moving. I mean, Sunday night, the debate looks a long way away. I mean, Trump has no effective campaign right now. They're holed up in Trump Tower. He's tweeting. He's issuing statements from his wife. But there's nobody out there that is really defending him. And meanwhile, we've got Republicans sort of across the political spectrum. Now, some of these Republicans weren't for him in the first place. But others, are news. And I think are sort of the breaking of the dam a little bit. And obviously the big names, Paul Ryan, Reince Priebus, Mitch McConnell, if those folks were to abandon him, he'd be in real trouble. I'm not sure that's going to happen before the debate tomorrow night, but it's a real problem for him, what's gone on here just in the last 24, 36 hours.
Rick, you have been supportive of him and have talked about the good things about him, believing in his candidacy. What does he need to do tomorrow night? Does she bring it up? Does he bring it up? Does he control the conversation on it? How do you see it playing out?
Look, I think before he gets to a debate setting, before he can start talking about policy, he's got to figure out how to deal with this current problem. This is devastating to the campaign. It's an ugly statement that no one can defend. I don't buy that he's made a good apology yet. I think Americans want an authentic person. We sometimes say we want to vote for someone who we're going to have a beer with. Mm-hmm. I think what that really means is that we want somebody who's authentic, who relates to us. And I do know that the American people are extremely forgiving. Mm-hmm. If they sense that there is an authentic apology, and I don't think Trump has done that yet. What he needs to do before he gets to the debate is have a journalist rough him up, ask him some really tough questions, and he needs to offer a humble, authentic apology. Can he do that? I don't know.
Steve, there are also calls now, if he doesn't leave the ticket, for the head of the RNC, Reince Priebus, who has found himself many times during this campaign season in between a rock and a hard place, that it's time for Reince to go, too, if Trump doesn't. And that's coming from a member of Congress.
Yeah, I mean, there have been those calls. There have been those calls all along. Look, I think Reince Priebus has been consulting with past RNC chairmen to see what options are available. And I think he is open to everything at this point. I think he's open to sort of staying the course and waiting to see how Trump does in the debate and then reassess addressing on Monday morning. I think he's open to pushing Trump off the ticket or asking Trump to leave the ticket. I think he's open to reallocating resources from the RNC Victory Fund that would have gone to the Trump campaign to focus on the Senate, to focus on down-ballot races. Anything goes right now, and that's what's really amazing about if you stop and think about this moment, this flood of people who have unendorsed Trump and the resetting of this race right now. It's all up for grabs 30 days out from this final debate, because I think people are so disgusted with what they heard on the tape.
Well, and Dr. Gina, we're hearing that there is a consideration within the Trump campaign of whether he brings up Bill Clinton, former president, his indiscretions, the accusations against him, which are myriad. Is it a mistake? Is it a good idea when he's got a wife who, was hurt probably by a lot of these things, standing across the stage from him as his opponent?
She was hurt, but she also continued, in the minds of many conservatives anyway, to victimize those women, spending $100,000 on private investigators, calling them bimbos. She spent a lot of time defaming some of these women who are hurt for a long time by this. So I think if Mr. Trump does that, I think it might be a smart tactic, because I think that it's sort of in a way buries the idea that he's the only one who has ever done anything. And what Mr. Trump said is very different than what Hillary and Bill have actually done to women. And if Mr. Trump can make that argument in an effective but still contrite, to your point, way, then I think that'll be good. And I do think, to Steve's point too, there is a danger in some of these establishment people forgetting the whole reason Mr. Trump is in this campaign is because he was an outsider, and people still want that.
Mike Lee's not establishment. I mean, the idea that this is an establishment versus Trump fight is so ridiculous at this point. Mike Lee's not establishment. Many of the people who are calling for Trump to step down are not establishment. That is like an old construct.
But a lot of the voters, I think, at home would describe their decision to vote for him based on that premise. A lot of them said they're sick of Washington. We know the polling for Congress is terrible. So in their minds, for many of them, it may be that way. This is their protest vote, was to pick him as the primary winner.
But I think before we get into the politics of this, whether Trump can sling mud back, it's got to have an apology. Americans want to see it.
You didn't like the one he did?
No, I didn't.
He said, I'm sorry, more than once.
There wasn't an authenticity to it, and there wasn't a journalist asking questions, probing. It was a videotape.
Okay,
it wasn't enough.
I'm available if he wants to talk to me more about that. So, Mr. Trump, call me. Okay, next up, the Podesta emails, those WikiLeaks, what it says about Hillary Clinton. We're going to debate all of that as well. But first, behind the scenes, all the work it takes to bring this debate coverage to you at home.
So what does it take to cover a presidential debate? Well, our team that was in Farmville, Virginia for the vice presidential debate broke down overnight, traveled here, and took 2 days to build this set. We're on Mud Field, and this is just one of 4 sets for Fox during the coverage of this debate. There are 250 employees here, all working around the clock, so you don't miss a thing. Special report continues right after this.
Bernie Sanders was actually right, and now the transcripts are showing that he was right. Now we see why she didn't want to show everybody what those transcripts said. I actually find that amusing. You know, if the Democrats knew what were in those transcripts, they wouldn't have elected her, and she knew it, he knew it, and now everybody else knows it.
We are back with our panel hot off of the leaks of emails and of excerpts of speeches that Hillary Clinton gave. We have not verified them ourselves. They are out there now, so let's talk about them. Tom, I want to start with you. You know, a lot of folks say that Hillary Clinton was giving a different public persona about things than she was privately with some of these positions, that things that she was telling Bernie Sanders and his supporters to get them on board were different than what we saw in the speeches to the Wall Street gang and to Goldman Sachs and those. Will it matter? Will it affect her polling?
Good question.
You're a polling expert.
In this environment, it's hard. Look, it's hard. Normally, these types of revelations would be very consequential and would damage her campaign, unquestionably. But given the context in which all this is happening with what's going on with Donald Trump, maybe not. Maybe, and certainly not as much as it might have otherwise. But, I mean, there's stuff in there that could be potentially very damaging, and as there may be other things as people sift through there that are found that could hurt her. But, again, put up in relative terms, put against what Donald Trump is enduring in terms of the media coverage and the scrutiny and all that, hard to see how this is really going to hurt her in any significant way. Whatever Trump's going through is going to hurt him far worse.
All right, Steve, I want to read a little bit of this. Is an excerpt supposedly from a speech that she gave back in 2013. She said, if everybody's watching, you know, all of the backroom discussions and the deals, you know, then people get a little nervous, to say the least. So you need both a public and a private position.
Yeah, I mean, if it's true, if that's in fact what she said, and it's not hard to believe that she would say that, it's a confirmation of everything we've known about Hillary Clinton, right? I mean, this is who she is, this is what she does, it's why her honest and trustworthy numbers are in the low 30s. But I agree entirely with Tom. I think this is just unlikely to hurt her because of the maelstrom that we're now seeing surrounding Donald Trump and the sort of meltdown of that campaign and the Republican Party more broadly. I mean, I do think it's significant that Hillary Clinton, you know, has said this, basically announced that she has different positions in public and private, that she's in effect supported single-payer health care, that she's talking about open trade and open borders. I mean, these are things that in many cases she ran against, said she wouldn't do in the Democratic primary, and now it comes out that she has in fact done them if these speeches are authentic. So it's a big development. Just in the middle of all of the rest of this, it just seems smaller.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Gina, Steve referenced this. Our polling over and over again shows that people don't find her honest or trustworthy, and they even rank Trump ahead of her on those things. They rank many people ahead of her when head-to-head. Certainly Bernie Sanders and some other people that she had to contend with on her path to where she is now. So it's almost as if the American public, potential voters out there, already have this perception of her that she's not honest and trustworthy. So do you think this changes the game for her at all? If they've already accepted, maybe she doesn't tell us the truth all the time, but for now she's our best option.
I do think that it has potential to do that. And here's why. Because we just have a constant spattering of this kind of information about Hillary Clinton. And if you take the voters in general right now, we have to remember not to view this election through the lens of any other election. This election is very mental to people. And I think a lot of people aren't going to, first of all, admit who they're actually voting to pollsters. So I think that's a major problem. And then secondly, I think some people are going to get in that voting booth and say, you know, am I really okay with X? And if the question is, am I really okay with somebody who says one thing to the voters and another thing to Goldman Sachs, somebody who can't identify with middle-class voters, then they might decide, even if they had already decided to vote for Hillary, not to in that particular situation. A lot of these decisions could be last minute.
All right, and Rick, I want to ask you about part of another speech that allegedly she gave in 2014. She said this: at the State Department, we were attacked every hour, more than once an hour, by incoming efforts to penetrate everything we had. And that was true across the U.S. government. And we knew it was going on when I would go to China or I would go to Russia. They were going after the personal emails of people who worked in the State Department. Now, this is different than what we've heard from her in talking about the discussion about her emails, about how careless she was, according to the FBI director, in handling sensitive information, and especially when she was out of the country in some of these more hostile places.
Yeah, it's part of your briefing when you join the State Department, is they tell you you are under assault. If you go to the UN, there's 192 countries that are trying to get your emails. Be careful. When you travel outside of the government, outside of the United States, she knows this, every administration knows this, which is why it's shocking when you think about the fact that she still had a server in her basement that wasn't secure, and she's telling Jake Sullivan to cut off the top of an email that said it was classified because she wanted it sent on an unclassified system. She didn't change the content, she changed the top of the marking. And so it's shocking when you see her private pronouncements that she knows that she's under assault. She knows that they were trying to get her in China and in Russia, but yet she was still so reckless. One of the problems that I think that we have is that Washington, D.C. types, media types, I think we're all in that camp. Mm-hmm. We kind of snooze at the fact that there's a duplicitous politician. Everybody thinks politicians are like that. But the American people, to Gina's point, I think are not comfortable with that. And they're going to look and they're going to say, Washington is out of touch and I don't like that.
The question is, I think, to a certain extent, will any bombshells be covered as bombshells? And I think, as somebody who sat through most of the 11 hours of her Benghazi hearing, there were times where what she said repeatedly under oath was untrue. I mean, she lied during her testimony. And, the New York Times and other publications didn't cover it as her lying. They covered her performance. And wow, did you see how she shrugged her shoulders? And she sure showed those members of Congress. My suspicion is that any subsequent leaks or subsequent documents, no matter how big, are likely to be covered that way rather than, particularly in this
media problem.
And to that point, Pence said yesterday, since I joined this campaign, it's just about been 2-on-1 with the media doing half of Hillary Clinton's work for her every day. Have you ever noticed that? Tom, a fair accusation or not?
I certainly think Republicans feel that way, and Trump supporters feel that way to a certain degree. But again, this campaign has been remarkably, a lot of the things that we just talked about, these issues are issue-based, and this campaign has been remarkably issue-free. It's been a debate about character, and that's where we are again now. And again, the parts of that go to Hillary Clinton's character are being overshadowed by the parts we're talking about that go to Trump's character and what the audio tape has revealed. So it's and that's the nature of the media, I think, in general.
Well, and with all of the new developments out there, this second debate, which may not have gotten as much attention, probably, I guess, will get more than we were expecting. Thank you, panel.
Thank you.
Final thoughts on where we go next when we come back.